making away. Oh, brilliant work! Ollie Norris scores the try for the Chiefs and the match winner.
Oh, dramatic finish, never in doubt. What a day to be a Chiefs fan today.
Millsy, Blues?
Hey, JK, I am a Blues fan. I'm a Blues fan. I'm a Kiwi fan. 3 Kiwi teams in the top 4. Hey, better things to come. Let's get on with the show.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Well, some call it lucky, but as Mel said, never in doubt. Tēnā koutou katoa, welcome into the breakdown. It is great to have you joining us. All the usual suspects are here and all the banter, it started already. Jeff Wilson, Mills Miliaina, Sir John Kerwin, and we have a very special guest, Joe Schmidt. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been thinking about how to introduce you. What do I say? Because you've got so many hats at the moment. I was going to say Blues defence coach, but I don't think that's quite right. So how would you describe your role with the Blues?
Just there to help out, really. So bit of jack of all trades, master of none, and at the same time, probably trying to help with the defence a bit more than anything else.
I think these guys, just quickly, Joe, though, they're missing the point of this whole big result of the Chiefs, is that the Highlanders are now one step closer to getting the Blues in a quarter-final. Your Blues, Joe. I will ask you this, though. Originally, it was 2 days, right? 2 days of consultancy. Then there was the bubble at the Blues. You had to go to Queenstown. Has it evolved through the course of the season, though? And have you taken on more responsibility by need, by passion, desire, or just the fact you've just tried to fill some spots the Blues were looking for?
No, not at all. I'm still just dabbling away. There's been a few COVID interruptions. We had a few of the staff with COVID, so I got to mix my role up a little bit. But no, I've just really enjoyed it, just being back out on the grass. So when I get the chance to get back out on the grass, I do it. And maybe once or twice. It's been more than twice a week.
Once or twice.
Because we were all trapped in Queenstown, right, for 3.5 weeks. So, yeah, I was out on the grass and with a golf club some of the time. So it wasn't just the footy.
Joe, you're home. 10 years in Ireland?
10 years in Ireland and, yeah, 3 in France before that.
They wanted to build a statue of Joe, actually, in Dublin. They tried to keep him over there. Absolutely admired and brought some real decent results. But what's the biggest difference you've noticed after 12 years away coming back into our competition?
There's not that much different. I just find the guys fantastic to work with. Every game is incredibly competitive. Even when you get some big scores, you still see that when the opposition have the ball, even, you know, last night, when the Reds got the ball, they were dangerous. And so you can just never take your eye off the ball effectively. So I've really enjoyed that. It is fast-paced, and it's nice to have some fast-paced men in your side as well. So I've really enjoyed that facet of it. But yeah, and I think the new character that has been brought into the competition by Moana Pasifika and the Fijian and Drua has been fantastic as well. So I've enjoyed the interactions with those teams as well.
Joe, I mean, returning back, you've always been a coach. I know you're saying there's only a couple of days that you're in there with the team. Is there something, a part of you inside you that sort of wants you to get back out and become a coach again? A full-time coach? Yeah,
not so much. I really genuinely came back to New Zealand to retire, and I found that I just slipped back in and get a few different priorities. But I have struggled, Mills, as you guys are picking on me now. I do struggle a bit to wedge myself away from the enjoyment I get out of coaching and the how energised I feel when I get out there, and hopefully that that energy transfers to some of the coaching staff and the players, because I think they've got great coaches at the Blues, and as I say, the guys are fantastic to work with.
Joe, I want to ask you about. I want to go back to your time in Ireland, because clearly that was it was taking that country to somewhere it hadn't been before. The fact you found success against New Zealand, against the All Blacks. The lens you had over there as you were looking and playing against the All Blacks, how much was it about developing what Ireland were doing versus what the All Blacks were doing, and how did you prepare when you had to play against them?
Yeah, I think the very first time we played them in 2013, when I'd had the team for 2 weeks, and we'd played Samoa and then got thumped a bit by Australia, and we were loose with the ball. And I've always felt that New Zealand are the best transition team in the world. So if you kick loosely to them or you're loose with the ball, they will really go after you. So we decided, look, we just try to make sure that New Zealand were forced to make every tackle, that we weren't going to give them anything that was loose, and that they couldn't get any real counter-attack against us. And at 22-7 at half-time, it was going pretty well. And I think we'll just finish it there.
No, but hold on. You went on to have success. You went on to have success against the All Blacks. I mean, you broke new ground. I mean, for All Blacks, they always remember the game where if you're the first team to lose to a country, right? And so if you look at how the game had evolved for the All Blacks, and you look at it now and how you were then, you come back to New Zealand, do you still sense it's the same New Zealand, the same All Blacks, the same challenge you faced back then?
Yeah, I think, again, you look at who was available for the All Blacks. I still think they're a really dangerous transition team if they get loose ball or loose opportunity. That would worry me if I was coaching against them. Whereas, we had really good success against South Africa during the time that I was with Ireland and the Wallabies. I think we probably won 5 out of 7 against the Wallabies, and They were a team where you could suffocate them a little bit, and as long as you could win the battle in the air against Israel Folau and try to contain the likes of Kurtley Beale, then you could get your own game going. And we had a fantastic series there and some great games in Dublin. So it was really looking with a really broad lens around the world at who you were playing. And it was really exciting, and that's why I was saying to Mills, I was ready to finish up. I'd had this really exciting kind of journey that I never planned to have. I'm just a school teacher, and it's been a privilege to get around the world and enjoy working with these elite teams.
Joe, I've noticed a transition of especially French front five and the Irish front five. Once upon a time, we'd probably not see them as ball players. But the whole team's evolved from an attacking point of view. Where does that come from? Is that what's happening behind the scenes at the franchises? Yeah,
a little bit. I think if you look at the moment, Leinster are a massive contributor to the Irish team, and I'd coached Leinster for 3 years before going into the Irish team, and we had some of the best kind of square running, side running, offloading players, the likes of Sean O'Brien, Brian O'Driscoll, Gordon Darcy, and some really good athletes like Rob Kearney, all coming from Leinster. And then going straight into the Irish team, or already being established in the Irish team. And that continuity, I think, is a real bonus. It certainly was for me, because it gave me an opportunity to have some continuity. And I think it's a bit the same with the French. I know after the Toulouse boys lost to Leinster in the European semi-final on the weekend, Ugo Mola was disappointed that his team looked fatigued. But he said the top 14 is an endurance test. There are so many games, and on top of that, I think he's got 12 of the French team in the Toulouse team. So having those 12 guys fronting up through the Six Nations, doing a super job, winning that with the Grand Slam, the first one in a dozen years, you're going to get a bit of physical fatigue, but also they're really human, these elite athletes, and you get that emotional ebb and flow, and they're ebbing a little bit to lose. They look a little bit tired, whereas the the Leinster boys probably don't play as often. I think they're really well coached, led by Stuart Lancaster on pitch mostly. And he does a super job. And Leo Cullen, he was captain for me for 3 years. You know, he's just such a good worker with people and really plans well. And they've got Felipe Contepomi there as well, who brings a bit of flair. So they've got a really good bunch of coaches, and that leads into a really good Irish coaching team led by Andy Farrell.
Joe, I want to talk about the Kiwi sort of connection in the Irish environment, because I know there was a little bit of backlash initially when they went over, but now they're really firing. They've sort of made it their own over there, and some of the guys at the Bundy Arkeys, your James Lowenko are really making a difference. And are you proud of that sort of aspect and introducing those guys?
Yeah, again, those guys kind of emerged of their own right. Bundy was playing really well. I think Jamison Gibson Park has really brought a real threat around the fringes. Because I think Luke McGrath and Conor Murray and Kieran Marmion, there's lots of good number 9s, but Jamo's been able to really, I think, bring probably a more tempo sort of style of game. Bundy, he's an irascible character. He's so good fun to coach, and same with James. You know, it's hard to wipe the smile off James's face. You know, good, bad, or ugly, he's out there loving the game. And if you've seen him play golf, he's exactly the same. I think he just loves living life, and it's hard not to enjoy watching him because he's enjoying himself.
Joe, we're so lucky to have you on the program, so thank you so much for your time and for coming in. We're not done with you just yet. There's been some big news around the World Rugby circles. The next decade, the future is confirmed.
Is this the greatest ever era? That is a wonderful piece of rugby. The power, the precision. Emily Scant is going to go all the way.
One of the very best in history.
It's absolutely unbelievable. The Trafford has gone mad. Here we go! Come on, the ultimate prize at stake.
We did it, Joe. We did it. We are hosting the Rugby World Cup.
It's just gold to watch this American team.
America, baby. Let's go.
Oh, it is an absolute ripper from the USA. And the USA will finish with a smile on their face.
2031 and 2033. Rugby's here.
Incredible. Let's get the party started.
Yes, it is going to be a golden decade. The future is set. Fantastic for Australian rugby and for the US as well, the golden nugget that is yet to be tapped into. But, Joe, Ireland, they were the preferred bid for next year's Rugby World Cup. How good would that have been?
Yeah, that would have been great because I think the whole country, a little bit like it was in 2011 here, I think the whole country would have embraced it. Similar sort of populations, and it would have been fantastic for the growth of the game in Ireland. It has grown. Certainly in the time that I was there through the 10 years, the interest in the game is fantastic, and you never go to the Aviva that it's not pretty much sold out, and there's always a great atmosphere. So I think that's a missed opportunity. At the same time, I'm sure people will love the French experience. I was coaching in France last time it was on in 2007, and it was a great tournament. Mostly. It kind of wasn't quite so good living in France when France got through to that semi-final, but I think at the same time...
Joe being a Kiwi...
I know I copped a fair bit, but you just got to wear that. I'm just hoping that doesn't turn out that way this time.
Goldie, you weren't convinced about America. Did you say, who said South Africa's not going to get it for 21 years or something?
No, I'm not 100% convinced. But there's a lot of things I would look at the moment. I talk about the global game, and I'm interested, Joe, because there's all this talk always about the fact how close the teams are, how the sides are getting closer and closer. Do you think that is genuinely the situation right now? As we get to Rugby World Cups, it appears as though teams are timing their runs a little bit better. They're getting themselves prepared that little bit better and looking at it going, you know what, how do we find the right group of players to prepare themselves, which could be 2 years in the future. But it seems as though the strength of the Six Nations, the teams that are evolving, the ones that have performed at the previous Rugby World Cup, wherever it might be, whether it's in Australia, teams are preparing to play better away from home.
Yeah, I think one of the key things about the Rugby World Cup is how fickle it can be. You get a couple of injuries, or a couple of guys aren't available, and things can change very quickly. And I think what we saw in the last Rugby World Cup, even in the playoff period, the kind of South Africans took the quiet route through the playoff rounds. Unfortunately, the All Blacks got much better of us. Then, everyone expected that to be the springboard to carry them through, but you get up emotionally, and then if you're just on, because the margins are so fine, you're just on a slight downer. England got up over the top of them and probably deserved to win that one. And then, England, that wasn't quite the springboard because South Africa got up for the following one, and it just didn't look like the same All Black team, the same England team, and that's how fickle the World Cup can be. And timing your run, it is very complicated in timing your run, and even getting the right lead in games. How many games do you have with the risk-reward? Get some rhythm, get a couple of injuries. So you're always trying to best equate what's going to best work for your group, and you're always trying to build strength and depth. And I think one of the things with the Irish coming here in July is that they're going to look to build some strength and depth. They want to be hugely competitive. It's the only country in the world where they haven't won on, opposition soil, so that they'll come loaded, but they'll also come with a view to having a slightly wider squad and building toward, next year in France.
Is that sudden death competition format just so new as well? Because you don't do it in any other tournament, do you?
No, you don't. Certainly not in the Six Nations. And I love the Six Nations. It's just one round robin, and it's winner take all. And it's a bit like that in the Rugby Championship as well. So, but it's one of the things that people love about it, because on the day, we actually went into the last Rugby World Cup ranked #1, and people thought that was fantastic, but where you're ranked is so irrelevant when the ball gets kicked off. You could tell all the opposition running at you, hey, you can't knock us over. We were one, but we were one step behind most of the day against the All Blacks in the quarterfinal. So it's whoever performs better on the day that gets through, and that's one of the allures of knockout rugby. We've got some knockout stages coming up in Super, where everything goes back to scratch.
As Highlanders, that's what he's banking on.
I'm coming in. We're sneaking in.
Just getting back to your question and discussion we had before. I really agree with the World Cup going to America. But do you ever think it'll come back to New Zealand, Mills?
It's hard. I mean, great as it was, with the atmosphere and things like that, I just don't think we've got the capability to be able to host big stadiums. We've got one major one. I mean, that's probably got a big factor in terms of the revenue that we generate. In terms of the support, absolutely. But I think in terms of having
scale of economy, right? It's the scale of economy.
Exactly, and that's obviously why the likes of Australia, I mean, they can provide that sort of. And I suppose the one other sort of country that you might think about is also South Africa, because they've missed out as well. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Joe, in terms of them returning to having a Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, obviously they put their bid in, and I think that with the success of Japan, I think there was a real interest in, having a solid nation again, like France, where that the economy of scale is really strong, and then taking a risk again, and maybe then going back to a known quantity like Australia, and then it may be that they go a risk again, or they maybe go back to South Africa. But I think you're right, with the economy of scale, maybe a shared one. I know that didn't work out last time with New Zealand and Australia, but it has worked out in the past, with both in Europe and that it was planned for down here.
Well, Joe, you can breathe a sigh of relief now. You are done. Compared to the pressure cooker environments you've been in, that would have been a walk in the park, though, wouldn't it?
No, well, I felt pressure.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for driving up for our program, and all the very best with what the future may bring.
Thank you, Kirsty. Thanks, JK, Mills.
Good to see you, mate.
Goldie. Yeah.
Go the Blues.
Thanks.
Joe Schmidt, so lucky to get him on the program. We'll have plenty more to come here.
He's out the
on
door.
The breakdown.
He's off and gone. He's off and gone. He's off and gone. He can't get out of here fast enough.
We're going to do our predictions.
God, he's got
Oh, so good. Thanks so much, Joe. We've got so much more.
You might never see him again. That was it. That was it.
One and done. One and done on the breakdown. Our beautiful Jersey Tales coming up right after this, and we talk about the All Black selections.
G'day guys, well I guess it's my turn for some Jersey Tales. My story a wee bit different, but follow me anyway. All right, well I've got plenty of accreditation, so we'll just have a look and be hidden away here in the cupboard. Oh, here we go, there we go. And there's plenty of them, I can tell you, dating back, some of them back 45 years or so. 1976 Olympics, pretty embarrassing shot that one. 78 Commonwealth Games. Actually, I've improved a bit in 2 years, haven't I? I really want to talk about it. I couldn't find the accreditation for 1996 in South Africa, but that really is the standout test match for me. The one in Pretoria, where the All Blacks became the first All Black team to win a series in South Africa. And we won the first test in Durban, okay, and then we came to Pretoria, and I think the feeling amongst the All Blacks and amongst the media and everybody who was there was that we had to win in Pretoria, because if we'd left it to Johannesburg, it was just going to be too hard. And we all know how that test match unfolded. It was just incredible. We all remember the nuns who were in the crowd as part of the All Black supporters group, and it was just a fantastic atmosphere. It was just a phenomenal game, and it was such a privilege to be there when history was finally created. Well, I actually learned a very valuable lesson that day, because I thought if history is going to be created here, I'm going to write it down, and so that I can just read this thing when the final whistle blows. And I did. I read it out.
The first All Black team toured here in 1928, and since then 4 other sides have tried to break the hoodoo and failed, but today Sean Fitzpatrick, John Hart and the All Black team have created rugby history. New Zealand has at last won a test series in South Africa.
And when I look back on it, it just sounds so contrived. So I've never done it since, never done it since. I've always just relied on the moment to carry it. After all, we're talking television here. I could have shouted out the word history and then just left it. But I had this contrived thing which I read out, and it sounded awful. I think it sounded awful anyway. So I learned a very valuable lesson that day, actually.
Handed away by Umaga, they're shifting it smartly. Now Lomu's in the clear. 1-on-1. Regan comes across, he's got support. Alatini, fantastic.
What a game, what a game. They still talk about it, I'm sure. It was a huge crowd out at the Olympic Stadium. We scored 3 tries, I think, in the first 7 or 8 minutes. I think Tana got one, Peter Alatini got one, and I think Christian Cullen might have got one. And we shot out to 24-0. And you look at the clock and it's only about 10 minutes gone. You're thinking, where will this end? But it was a pretty good Australian team, let's be honest. You know, they got it back to 24-all by half-time. And we finally got home with that overhead pass by Tane Randall. The moment it went to Jonah, I thought, this is a dead set try. It can't be anything else.
Can he make it? You betcha! You betcha! Jonah's in!
And it was just a great occasion. Well, I've been involved in a lot of World Cups, starting in 1987, obviously, the inaugural one in New Zealand, 91 in the UK, 95 in South Africa. And then there was a bit of a gap because we didn't have the rights for it. So then we picked it up in 2011. That's me in 2011, blimey. And of course, that was a memorable tournament because it was here. It was the first time in 24 years. And we hadn't won the damn thing since '87. And I think when I reflect now on what it was like to call the final and when the final whistle blew, it was just relief. And I think you talk to any All Blacks from that team, they'll tell you exactly the same thing. It was just purely relief. I didn't find it emotional. I don't get terribly emotional about a lot of things when it comes to rugby, because it's a game that's won or lost on the day. Probably more emotional was '95 in South Africa when we had the best team, but South Africa played better on the day. And I think the emotion of being in South Africa and seeing the Springboks win, that actually made me feel a bit more emotional because they were such great winners. Now, there are great winners and there are bad winners, but the South Africans were great winners. You know, they didn't gloat and all the rest of it. I thought they were fantastic, actually. So 2015 was a different kettle of fish altogether. We had an outstanding All Black team, there's no doubt about that, but the biggest highlight, I think, of course, was the winning try, and Justin Marshall spotted it probably slightly before I did.
Bowden Barrett! Bowden Barrett's got a heap of pace! Go Bowden! That's on damage! That's the World Cup!
I thought he was going to push me out of the commentary box. He got so excited about it all. But, you know, look, he's a former All Black. He's played in World Cups, and it means a lot to those guys. I was chuffed that in 2015 we were able to win, beat Australia, and do it at Twickenham. All those things were just fantastic. I remember in Dublin when Ryan Crotty scored that try and Aaron Cruden converted it. And at that point, Ireland hadn't beaten us. And we thought it was going to happen that day. It should have happened that day if Johnny Sexton had kicked the penalty.
Aaron Smith scoops it away to Cruden. Here's Coles.
What a pass! What a pass!
Ryan Crotty scores!
Oh my goodness!
When Crotty scored, honestly, Justin shoved me so hard, I was lucky I stayed in the commentary booth. You know, he was that excited about it. But that's good. That's what we want, a bit of passion. So there we are, guys. There are my jersey tales. I guess they're not really jersey tales, are they? Accreditation tales. And it's been real fun.
Wow, we've had some great jersey tales so far, but that is my absolute favourite. He's an absolute legend. Great to be able to hear Grant Nisbet's memories, but you've got memories associated what he's just spoken about.
Yeah, so I was doing commentary for the 2011 World Cup for Italian Sky in Italian, and I always remember the last 20 minutes, Mills. At one stage, you know how you press the button so no one can hear? and Francesco Penantozzi, my good mate, goes, "Tu devo parlare, tu devo parlare." And I went, "What?" He said, "You've got to speak. You haven't spoken for 5 minutes." So I was just in shock because I didn't know what to say. The whole crowd was in shock, and I'll never forget that as long as I live because I wasn't doing my job. I was like a fan, just scared, holding my breath.
I was in another commentary box, not working for another network, and did exactly the same thing for the last 5 minutes. Didn't say a word. Didn't say a word. Remarkable. I was fortunate enough to be there in 2015 as well, and I wasn't commentating at the time, wasn't downside, and I was just at the ground, and it was something fantastic. It really, really was special. And to see that group, that team, to perform like that, because there was no doubt they were the best team and they went out and showed it. It was a remarkable performance.
How great was his accreditation?
Yeah,
I think, man, I've
got it.
About 3 accreditations here. I could sort of stack up and
You can't even find you one for the weekend, Mills.
You ask me for the name. Come on, Kirsty, I can add that to the next collection.
No, that was fantastic to be able to get him. So great work to our producer Jim for getting Grant Nisbet on. Now we're talking about the All Black selection dilemmas. Do we call them dilemmas? Jeff, I want to come to you first.
Right.
Do we have the courage to experiment?
Stop!
Start singing.
Stop!
What do you mean?
Geordie Barrett at 12.
Well,
You've got to comment on it.
Well, you've done well. You've read the sheet. Yeah, that's
No, I
what it
haven't read
says. It says Geordie Barrett at 12. Well done, JK. Good effort there.
I haven't read the sheet at all.
Trying to predict
Nice one,
what's
mate. Nice
going
one,
on
mate.
and you just read the sheet. Geordie Barrett at 12. What I'm saying is the fact that I genuinely hope going into the Super Rugby Pacific season that we have the open-mindedness to consider the form of all of the players, not just Geordie Barrett, not just Ardie Savea. We know he's playing great rugby. There are so many guys who are performing, and I hope we have the courage to look at the options available to us, and one of those is Geordie Barrett. When I sat down and put together an All Black side, thinking about who's going to play when and where, I look at it and go, you know, we have so much versatility in our team. We've got so many guys who can play multiple positions. The Hurricanes have decided it's not a bad idea to play Geordie Barrett at 12 with Josh Morby being in such great form. I look at it and I think to myself, what is it we are looking for? How is it we want to play? And how do we incorporate the talent? So for me, I look at it and Geordie Barrett is a genuine option at 12. Show up your sign that's got 18 tests to go.
So do we experiment? JK?
I thought you were putting him on the bench. I thought you were putting him on your bench, a prop.
I understand exactly what you're saying, Goldie, but no, we've got to get away. We've just got to pick a test side and stick with it. Seriously, besides injury. I don't believe we should worry about versatility anymore. If you prefer Will Jordan, we've got to pick Will Jordan, and Geordie's got to stay on the bench. We've just got to go, this is our test team. And then if guys are getting tired, I get that. But I seriously don't think versatility is going to help us moving forward.
I think he actually has proven that he can slot in there, and he's probably a victim of circumstances. I mean, you look at the fact that, you know, Anton Leonard-Brown's out, you know, Goodhue's coming into form. I think he brings a different style, and the reason why he has is because he's had stability. He's had, you know, momentum in staying in that position for these number of weeks for the Hurricanes. I think that he can actually transform that into the All Blacks. The problem when you get to the All Blacks, and it's such a hard position, you know, to go chopping and changing. His mindset has now got to be, am I going to be a genuine second 5'8", and is Ian Foster going to pick me and have that discussion? Because last year he was a fullback. But I think, you know, given the fact that Will Jordan's playing so well, maybe that is the fix.
It's a highly congested spot, right, isn't it, Kirsty? The fact is you've got the likes of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, you've got Jack Goodhue, who's coming back, David Havili, who played in that 12 jerseys so much last season.
Do you want to add a Highlander in there?
Thomas Umaga-Jensen, Quinn Tupaia, Thomas Umaga-Jensen, I'll say it again, because all of a sudden, if you start looking at the back-to-back performances and the skill sets, the thing that's important to me is to create from the second 5 position, and it's be able to get over the advantage line, it's be able to carry strongly. We know Jordie Barrett can do that. Thomas Umaga-Jensen can do that. Jordie Barrett's ability to offload. Last guy we had that in that position, who was 6'4", 6'5", guess what his name was? Sonny Bill Williams. This guy is a talent with the ability to offload. We've started to see it from Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I'm just looking at it and going, are we going to have the courage to look at the form of these guys, JK, in Super Rugby? Otherwise, there's no point in them even looking.
No, look, I don't disagree with you. My point is, if you put Jordie there, he's got to stay there for 10 tests, right? Because he's got to get used to it. So I reckon this is the biggest challenge that the All Black selectors have. And I'm serious about the 18 tests, because at least 10 of them, they've got to play together. So if you go Jordie, and I get that, because I think he's talented, I actually don't mind who's there, right? If you pick Roger, I think Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's a really interesting conversation, Mills, because he's going to need time in that position. So all I'm saying is, if you put Roger at 12, he's got to play all this season.
So, Mills, I'm going to ask you the question. I think these are the 2 key positions about how you want to play as a team.
Yeah.
How your mindset is as a team, how you want to play. Do you want to play defensive-minded football? Do you want to have a strong carry and a kicking game, or do you want to be more creative? Because that's the combination I'm looking at by having Will Jordan, the most dangerous player right now in Super Rugby. He's a part of a very, very good team, but for me, Will Jordan is the guy I need with hands on the ball, space to create and run. Not just standing out in the wing. I want him getting his hands on the ball. Fullback is the best position to do it from.
He doesn't stand out in the wing. I've been really impressed with him because, you know, he had an outstanding year when he went out on India tour and things like that. It's so hard to come back and bounce back and back up once again. And he's done that, you know, right from the get-go when he started that first game for the Crusaders this year. He's just been in amazing form. So, you know, when you look at sort of the way the All Blacks want to play, he needs to be there. You know, usually, like, they come back and they're well marked. He's bringing something different, and that's possibly why we're looking at the case of, OK, when you look at your 12s, what do you want? I think it's variety. And then when you look at the guys, you know, the one thing that sort of stands out is probably the kicking game. You know, Jordie Barrett can kick, and Havili can, but Jordie Barrett brings a different presence. He's a bit more sort of, you know, that physical nature. So it's going to come down to the style they want to play.
You've been talking about Jordie Barrett at 12, Will Jordan at 15. Will this happen, JK? Do the All Blacks coaches and selectors have the courage, have the balls to do this year before the World Cup?
Well, I think the last 2 years have been very difficult for them because they would have built their side. I think now they'll need to go, we've got to settle on a team. And that's going to be difficult because we do have so many players. Now, I still think 12 is the biggest issue at the moment, especially with someone like Roger coming in. I think, why don't we just get back to Will Jordan, Jordie Barrett, best man plays? Is that going to be good internally for the squad? Rather than saying, oh, Jordie's too good to leave out, we're going to put them there. And so I think it's a really, really difficult year for the All Blacks because they've lost 2 years and they're going to have to go to it pretty quick.
You and I, we could all write down our names, 36 names, and there are going to be some players that are going to miss out. Some guys who have played a huge number of test matches from the All Blacks. I just hope that this team wasn't picked 5 or 6 weeks ago. I hope the next 5 weeks gives people an opportunity, JK. If we're going to put any stock in what's happening, and this is the opportunity for a TJ Perenara to compete with Finlay Christie, to compete with Brad Weber and say, you know what, when the pressure comes on, I've still got it. I am good enough with all of my experience. And that's what I'm interested in, is the fact I don't want this team to have been done and dusted. I hear it all the time, Mills. Oh, we've selected this side. I can pick last year's team. Is that fine? But is that going to be good enough? I'm not convinced. I'd like to think that Super Rugby has shown us we've got some talent that deserve an opportunity if we're going to play better than we did last year.
I think that's been our strength in the past, the fact that you pick a sort of a core group of guys that you know, their names are first on them, then they might come off the bench, they might even not sort of play, but I think they've got to build a side around, you know, obviously the leadership. But I think, you know, now considering where we've gone these last couple of years, I think we need to show a little bit of, you know, a bit of balls. And I think we need to make sort of big decision on, you know, who are we actually going to, you know, evolve our sort of game plan around? What sort of style are we actually playing? Because everyone's caught up. You know, what are we going to do different that we've always, you know, that the world hasn't sort of seen? And I think that could be a case of, you know, picking someone like Geordie at second five.
Joe Schmidt talked about it. He talked about our transition game. That to me is about our attack. Is going out there and pushing pressure on the opposition to score points off mistakes that we're forcing.
Look at the Blues did. Exactly their transition. Mistake, bang. Try.
It's just started to do that.
No, try.
Well, quick fire question for all of you, and this is quick fire, so one answer. JK.
I hate quick fire.
Halfback.
This is not a trivia question. You know the players.
Halfback, second five, fullback for the All Blacks right now. Who is it?
Halfback, second five and fullback in the first test match. Georgie, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Aaron Smith.
Aaron Smith, David Havili and Geordie.
Ooh. Aaron Smith, Geordie Barrett and Will Jordan.
Ooh. We'll come back to this in a month and a half.
That's hard, quick fire. I like that. That's hard.
It's tough, isn't it? Well, I've got another one for you.
You'll change your mind by the end of the show. So you've got plenty of time.
We've got another quick fire question for you. It's not so much quick fire, but it is our trivia question for the week. Remember, you can get involved at home as well, so grab a piece of paper and a pen because you might need it for this question. Here is your question, if you're all ready. Who was the starting 15 for the Blues in the 1996 Super 12 final? Super 10? 12.
1996.
1996.
You want me to write it down?
Write it down.
No chance. I have no chance. I give up.
Oh, well.
Can I give up?
I was on holiday.
I
was on holiday. Once I've been knocked out, I don't care.
Well, you were
15.
1996. Mills has already written half the team down. Get your pen and paper.
The whole team. Far out.
Write it down. Write it down.
A collaborative one. OK, good luck.
Graham Henry.
Good luck. We're wishing you good luck. We'll be back right after this with the answer.
Away for Lomu. Now here's a chance. On you bear. Lomu. Back to Tanu'u. Spencer. Players to burn. Blowers. Arm in the air. And Andrew Blowers scores what will probably be the final try in this competition. Zinzanbrook and the Auckland Blues win the initial Super 12. That is a convincing victory, 45 points to 21.
Welcome back into the breakdown. Now I know what to do to stop these guys arguing during the break. It's to give them a team task. They've actually been working together for the first time. Other than JK, you're doing your own thing again.
What picture are you drawing?
Well, no, I couldn't remember them, so I just drew them. I think I got them all, Mills.
Nice.
How am I supposed to remember all those guys?
Well, Youngest is going to announce the team.
OK, so team captain, Mills.
Team captain.
OK, we're going Dowd, Fitzy, Olo Brown. Who are we going? Robin Brooke, Richard Fremont, Zinni.
Ooh.
Iceman at 6.
Yep.
Blowers at 7. Tonu'u at 9. Carlos Spencer, Johnny Noapu, Oroni, Jonah and Cashmore.
Oh, Johnny Namu. Johnny Namu?
Namu.
No.
Namu.
You did pretty well. You did pretty well. It wasn't
Charles,
exactly correct.
Charles Reicherman. Big Charles Reicherman. Oh, I got it right.
How could you go wrong, JK?
Exactly.
How could you go wrong?
That was a team. How could
That's
they
what you
lose?
said.
That's why they won the competition right there. You try beating that.
Yeah.
That's just not fair. That's not fair.
Wow.
How do
It's
we
not
miss
fair.
Great team?
Well, you want to see something interesting?
Super Rugby was supposed to be balanced.
What a team.
We've got something interesting for you. We've got something extra, which is very interesting because top 10 point scorers for that year, there's no one, JK, from the Blues. Look at that.
Well, that's wrong. Who's done that? Who cares? We won. That's weird, eh? See, it's interesting. It's interesting about stats sometimes, eh?
John Eales.
You know?
What a wonderful player he was.
Wow.
Ian
He was
Foster.
kicking as well.
Ian Foster.
Was he? Get in there, son.
Coops came
Back
down
nor
to
down.
Islanders.
Anyway,
Well,
move on.
that was a great game. You know
was a
that we
good
always
game.
like testing them, and
Yeah.
we threw a good one at you today.
Thank you, that was good.
JK was right.
Can we make it
couldn't go
a
wrong.
bit simpler next week?
Right, time now for a bit of Super Rugby because there was plenty of action over the weekend. 5 from 5, our Kiwi teams went. It was a great weekend. Super Rugby with Nurofen available at Chemist Warehouse. Well, we're going to look straight away at the points table because, as JK always says, 18 tests. Well, there's only 2 rounds to go until the playoffs. We're round 13, and this is what the points table looks like. JK's happy, the Blues, Mills is happy, the Chiefs. Jeff's happy because the Highlanders, they're looking like the roughie in this competition.
Well, not the roughie. I mean, what do you want about? I mean, we've got 6 clear points. We've just got to get one more win, and we are well and truly there. We've got the Rebels in the last round, though. We've got a job to do. But I'll tell you what, we're in the quarterfinals, right?
Well, let's take a look at what the quarterfinals would actually look like if they were today. 1 plays 8, remember, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, and 4 plays 5. Great scenario for our Kiwi teams.
Yeah, I just think that, for me, the Highlanders deserve it, Goldie. I think, you know, it's been a really tough start and they've hung in there. They've still got a bit to do because it's the depth of their squad would worry me for the last few weeks. But also the Blues need to go away.
Hold on, we can put a guy at first 5 who's never played there at Super Rugby level and look at him go and play. So I look at it and go, bottom line, I think, Mills, I look at that scenario, though, I think it's awesome because ultimately this is what you're looking at. You get a couple of derbies, 3 derbies actually, including the Brumbies taking on the Reds, and then the Crusaders and Waratahs. I look at that and go, I think this is a fair reflection of where the teams are this season, how they've played, how they've performed, and we're seeing now the teams that haven't quite stacked up on the Trans-Tasman side of it. I think it's fair.
Well, we're loving our graphics today, so let's take a look at the run home for the top 4 teams at the moment, because there's some interesting games, isn't there?
Massively.
I mean, last round, every Kiwi team is across the ditch, aside from the Crusaders.
Yeah, well, this is it. I think the Blues have got a tough run in. Brumbies over there, Waratahs over there, on the road for a couple of weeks. I don't know whether they'll come home. But that could be a big difference towards the end of the season. So the Highlanders probably have the easier run, would you say?
Well, they've got the Waratahs. That's not going to be easy in any way stretch of the imagination. And you think about what the Crusaders have got, the Drua. The Drua have got their second win on the weekend, which was great to see.
And the Reds, of course.
The Chiefs get out of jail. They get out of jail, but they've got a pretty good run home as well, you know, taking on the Force. And then they have got to go to Fiji, though, so you've got a job to do there. Crusaders Reds could be a really big one.
Isn't it good? I feel that this super competition with Rugby Aotearoa first and this now, I think it's been really good. I think it's really interesting. People are excited.
Yeah.
It's going to be even better next year because, bottom line, it's just going to be one competition. So right from the start, we're back and forward like it was designed to be in 2022. We were forced down this, but I think for me now, all of a sudden we won't start talking about the 2 sides of the Tasman. It'll be all in one and we'll get even a better reflection going forward.
Millsy, can I ask you a question? Do you think that Rugby Aotearoa is too intense? Because I've noticed a little bit more rugby being played now with the Australian sides and more attacking, a little bit freer.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the fact that the Aussies have changed and they've sort of found their rhythm, their sort of style that they want to actually play as well, that's probably added to that and sort of freed things up a little bit. I really love it. I really love the fact that we're down now. The big point will be, you know, where everyone sits, because I think home advantage is going to be really, really key. So these last 2 rounds are key, but also on any given day, in that 8, anyone can beat anyone. And that's, I think, what Joe Smith sort of touched on. When you come to the finals rugby, everything goes out the window. So it's about winning. And I think the Highlanders
Got a smile on your face.
That's what I'm hoping.
Hey?
That's what I'm hoping.
OK, well, I'm really going to test your allegiances now because I want to know from each of you who makes the finals, who wins it, and who's the dark horse.
I won't even answer that because everyone knows my answer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but who's going to be in the final with your Blues?
Dark horse are actually the Highlanders. I don't like saying that in front of you, Jeff, but I think I would not like to get the Highlanders late.
You know.
Well, if they come together in the quarterfinals, mate, you're gone. So they're already there, aren't you? The Highlanders and the Blues, the way it stands now.
Not yet. It's still 2 weeks to go. But I don't like them with nothing to lose.
That's it. They're dangerous.
They are dangerous. I get that. But
I'll go back to where I sort of said at the start. I think the Chiefs and the Blues.
Win the final.
Oh, your two teams, Mills.
Oh, yeah, mate.
Way to sit on the fence again.
Yeah.
Hey, you find a way to all of a sudden support both of them.
There is no way I'm sitting on the fence.
So who's your champion, though? Who's your champion, though?
I think the Blues will take it this year. I think they honestly can. I don't want to say they're the dark horse, but the Crusaders, man.
Yeah.
We're not even speaking about them. That's dangerous in itself, so they're far out.
Any other teams you want to mention, so you don't make a decision? Look,
Crusaders are coming right at the right end of the season, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% they are. But once again, you've got to think about what happens at semi-final time. Who plays who at the semi-final stage. So if the Crusaders don't end up in that second spot, I suppose they want to secure themselves a second and third, which would avoid the Blues as the top-ranked player, top-ranked team. But for me, I look at it and the Blues are the team to beat. It's in their hands. Yeah. It's in their own destiny. They can control being at home. We know how critical that's going to be. But if you think about a run home, which could have the Highlanders in the quarterfinal, and they won through to a semi, who that ever might be against is going to be huge, and then a final. And I think if it plays out right, I think we might all want to see the Blues Crusaders in a final.
At Eden Park.
Kirsty, how do you see it?
Chiefs, Blues.
In that
Crusaders,
order?
the dark horse.
Crusaders.
Final.
Crusaders are dark horse.
Good on you, Kirsty.
I like that.
Anyway, JK, I want to talk about the Blues because Patrick Tuipulotu put on his social media. He said, sayonara to Japan, thanked the people, and loved his season over there. But he's coming back to New Zealand. Not available to play for the Blues, though.
No, he won't be available. Not allowed to play. 1st of April. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we've sent him over there on a financial sabbatical. He finished early because Toyota got knocked out. Why can't he play? I don't get it.
Question being, though, when you say he can't play, if someone got injured, I don't think he can play in special circumstances either. So he is out. But I look at from another point of view that there's no way he should be able to come back in because other teams haven't had the opportunity to sign somebody else. If someone else drops out of the team then for the Blues, does that mean the Highlanders, if they need a lock, can go and sign someone? Yeah. You've got what you've got.
Yeah. Like, did you see? I don't know if you watched the Warriors on the weekend. If you did, watch the second half. But
if you made it to the second half.
I don't even know. Excuse me. This no disrespect because he's only been there a week. Our new half came from Sydney Roosters and played. I mean, this is a modern game. It's not that. We just want to see our best players out there. I just want to see Patrick play. Hey, if he got drafted to the Highlanders, I'd probably say no, but maybe he should be able to because I just want to see him out there for the Blues.
I don't think he'd ever want to play for anybody else. That's the other issue. Yeah.
But I don't understand why not. Do you think because it'll give the Blues a competitive advantage?
I'll tell you what, though. You watching James Tucker play? You see the job Luke Romano's done for this Blues side? Sam Darry's sitting there. I tell you what, some sort of player, I think Ben Smith's about to come back as well.
He's available, isn't he?
Let's get him back out there. OK, anyone else who wants to play for the Highlanders and anyone who can help, let's come on, get on board.
Well, usually when we're talking All Blacks, you find a way to throw Damien McKenzie's name in there. He'll be back from Japan soon as well, but he's been told he has to go back through NPC to play for the All Blacks.
Yeah, look, I still don't understand that either. We've signed him for the All Blacks. Just why? We know that we need him. Just play him. I'm pleased he's actually going back to play for Waikato because I think it'd be fantastic for the fans. But why are we bothering? It's a professional sport. The guy's being signed by the NZR. He's back to play. He should be available. Same with Patrick Tuipulotu. I don't understand that antiquated rule. Now, if it's a unfairness thing, right, and I get that. Patrick Tuipulotu wasn't signed at the Blues start of the season. I think I remember him playing at the beginning of this season. OK, I get it. So it's unfair on the other squads. I'll live with that. But actually, just play them.
JK buried the lead. He's re-signed. Right? And he's re-signed until after the Rugby World Cup.
I don't get it either. I mean, if it's not like they're coming back and they're not the best and they wouldn't be selected in terms of the All Blacks or in Super Rugby. Play them. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, they've all stopped. That's enough then, is it?
Oh, we're out. We're done.
Well,
Oh, look.
big game coming up next week before we go. Brumbies taking on the Blues at home. JK, nervous?
Yeah, it's not nice going there. Not nice going to the Brumbies. They're a good side, strong at the ruck. The Blues are going to have to be on their game to win.
Well, we will be back next Sunday to dissect all of it. Round 14 coming up in Super Rugby Pacific. Great to have you joining us on the breakdown today. Great work, all of you, and also awesome to get Joe Schmidt on the program as well. So a big thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
He's halfway home. He's halfway home.
It away, must score, and they do. Lumanga Jensen, got away to Gregory. Oh, that's a beauty.
But they're back almost to halfway. They're over halfway. And here's Tucker storming onto it, the big one. They can't get on the ground. Now they do, just a couple of metres short. Numbers away to the left. And it's still there, and Clark's over. Bryce heaves it again. I don't believe his luck. He's come off the bench, couple of tries. Not too bad.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.